Hi, my name is Cliff Harris. I'm the developer of Gratuitous Space Battles. This is Gratuitous Space Battles. It's an indie PC game that's been around for a little while now, and I've made some changes and improvements to the game, and I thought I'd do a quick video to point out what some of those changes are and kind of explain why I've done them and kind of where to look for them. This is a battle between two of the expansion pack races. This here is a fleet of ships that belong to the Nomads, and over here these are ships that belong to the Swarm. Now that's one of the changes there, that effect when shields get hit, you get a kind of glassy distortion effect. This is something that's in the game that came after it, which is Gratuitous Tank Battles, and I thought I'd go back and include that effect, those sort of effects, in this game as well. If I can find a ship that's about to be blown up, I'll show you another one of those effects. Okay, so I'm hoping that this ship here isn't going to last much longer, and when it blows up there's a kind of distortion ripple effect that is in Gratuitous Tank Battles, and I really liked it and I thought it would work well. That's it there, that kind of quick blast ripple that you get. And there it is again on another ship, a smaller ship there. It's actually much harder to code this than you would imagine that it is, because you see it in quite a few places. It's a bit of a pain to implement. If your graphics card can't handle it, you can turn this stuff off, so it doesn't really change the game unless you want it to. But I think it's kind of cool. I love it, obviously. And I kind of really miss it if I come back and play Gratuitous Space Battles, having played Gratuitous Tank Battles. So I thought I have to find a way to go back and put it in. I think this ship's on its last legs, surely. That's got to finish it off, hasn't it? There you go. That was a bit zoomed in too much. Anyway, that's one of the changes, these sort of visual changes to explosions and stuff like that. Right, this is the other change that I've made to the game. This is in the deployment screen where you're deciding, you know, what ships to place where and what orders to give them. And there's a new button at the bottom here which says Direct Control. You can only turn this on if it's a single player battle. In other words, if it's not a challenge that you're playing online and if it's not part of the campaign game. So you can't really use this to cheat in any way. Or to give you an advantage, because effectively it's a single player option, so it's just another way to play the game. So if you do toggle this on at the start, then it becomes an option in the battle. So I've just picked a different scenario and a different enemy. So I'm playing against the Empire. I particularly like those sort of ships. So what's changed? Basically you can now control the ships in the middle of battle. You're only really going to use this to override certain orders and to kind of change your mind mid-battle, because the battles in GSB are pretty big, the fleets are pretty big. You probably, unless you're constantly pausing the game, you're probably not going to play the whole game this way. But essentially, if you select a ship, and you can actually select a ship and see which ship you've selected, because you get this new effect on them like that. And obviously you can like draw boxes to select ships, or double click to select ships, or control click, and do all the kind of selection stuff that you'd expect in an RTS game. When you've selected a ship, you'll notice you get extra buttons here for controlling their orders. So these ships here, they've got their default orders, they're heading this way, but I could select them and give them different orders. I actually selected some fighters there. So I can issue mid-battle course changes to these guys, tell them where to go. I can make them retreat if they're getting badly hit by the enemy, or I can tell them to go towards a certain target. I can always change those orders, so if I select a ship and it's got an overridden order, and you'll see that because of the green line, I can then cancel that specific move order, and it will then go back to doing whatever it was doing beforehand. So if I select these and tell them to go there, you'll see them change course pretty much straight away. I can cancel that, and then they'll go back to moving towards their original location. So you can do that with movement. You can also do it with combat. So I will go back up here where they're actually near the enemy. So if I select a ship, as well as right-clicking somewhere and telling it to go there, I can right-click an enemy ship, and then you get red lines, and that is a fire order. And again, I can cancel that fire order if I like. So for example, if these ships were concentrating all their weapons on enemy fighters that are hassling them, that might not be very efficient. So I might say, no, you want to concentrate fire on this cruiser. That's the main thing. Don't get distracted. The other level of doing this is to give individual orders to specific weapons. So if I select a specific weapon like that missile launcher, I can then right-click an enemy. I then get a red line, and that is directing that specific weapon. It's a battery of 2 in that case, to open fire on that specific ship. So I can do that for each weapon. So each individual weapon on that ship could be told to attack a different enemy. And that might be very helpful if you've got certain weapons that are good against frigates and other weapons that are good against cruisers or whatever, and you want to be very specific in how you set those up. You can also select those weapons down here. So if you're clicking on the icon for that particular weapon, then it's the same thing. It'll highlight that particular system. Okay, the other thing that you can do, if I've got any ships left, these guys are doing pretty well, is you can pause the game if you click on edit orders, and then you can see all of the orders that specific ship has, and you can do anything here that you would do in the deployment phase. So I can get rid of the cooperative order, I can add in the retaliate order, and I can change the ranges and priorities for the different weapons classes. Basically anything that I should have done in deployment I can change and override here. You can do that with any ship. You can even do that with a fighter. I don't think I've got any left. I haven't. Only frigates. So basically now you can control your ships as you would do in an RTS game, more or less. I don't think that people will necessarily play it entirely like an RTS, but you could if you wanted to. I think more likely in a situation where your orders haven't survived contact with the enemy, you can take a ship like this that's kind of not doing anything particularly useful, and you can give it mid-battle orders that make a lot more sense than they would have before. Because part of the frustration of the game is occasionally that your ships seem to be doing the wrong thing and there's nothing you can do about it. I quite like that, but some people would prefer to be able to do this where you're overriding those pre-battle orders, and it is kind of fun. Hopefully people won't get too agitated about it, and they'll realise it's just another option. It's always a good idea to have options in a game, I think. It's not really for the game designer to insist that you play it the way he wants to play it. And hopefully anyone that was really put off the idea that you don't have any control whatsoever mid-battle, now you do. So hope you enjoy it.